Hello and welcome to another episode of Mysteries with a History. We will be taking on a wild ride into the unknown, the strange, and the mysterious. Like you, I have questions, and like you, I want answers. And with each episode together, we will peel away the layers to look for the truth. Cattle mutilations are a disturbing mystery that is ongoing and has a long history. It's made headlines again with the series of new cases in Texas that have all the bizarre hallmarks of classic unsolved cases. What is the connection with UFOs that are often observed before the discovery of slain animals? In this episode, we will review the history and current events of the cattle mutilation mystery. Let me bring in my co host, Jimmy Church of Faded Black Radio. Jimmy, how's it going? You ready for today? It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be great. You don't fall for it anymore. You just rolled right past that, like, church. Nah, that worked once. That worked once. This is going to be one of those shows, Cristina. It's going to be one of those shows. I'm going to ask you. Well, obviously, I know what part of the motivation was for this week, but I'm a little surprised that you're dipping your toe here. I mean, it's a gnarly subject, and one that so many are just afraid to touch because of what it involves.
Well, with it getting into the news not once but twice, one in Texas less than a week ago, and then one in Australia just a few weeks back. And I felt like we're seeing this old mystery arise once again. I think it's a great opportunity to get myself and others interested and also knowledgeable in the topic because it is grody, it is difficult to talk about. And for those that are watching this on YouTube, we will be sharing some disturbing images, so do keep that in mind. Also, please share this video on Facebook, Reddit, and whatever other platforms that you hang out online and so in online communities which focus on these types of topics, because a big part of the growth of this channel has to do with you. So I do want to say thank you for everyone watching this live and also the replay as well. But you're right, Jimmy, this topic, it makes your stomach churn. When I was looking at the images and saving a few for today's show, I'm thinking, should I share this? It's kind of graphic, but you know, you really can't make this into a happy show. It's not, you know, glitter and sprinkles. For this one, it is very, very dark. And so again, no, there are no unicorns in this one, which I would like to state. How come people don't believe in unicorns? But then we have these giraffes. Try to explain a giraffe to somebody that's never seen one. It's a super long leg, like neck, right? A weird pattern. It's bizarre. And these like little antenna things. No. But no one will believe a horse with the horn. It's wild. But what I'm getting at, Jimmy, is I think this is a great moment to talk about cattle mutilations, talk about so many famous cases. There are a handful. And you know what? I'm just going to save it. I have it written down on a Post-it note, but I'm going to save it for later.
Okay, save it for later. How are you doing though? Because when you get into this subject, mentally it takes you to another place, and you can't unsee the images. You can't unsee the data. You can't undo the research. So, and I think it affects everybody. How are you doing? You all right?
So far, so good.
Okay.
So far, so good.
I'm just checking in with you. Just checking in. Cristina and I were talking right before the show, and when the news started to break earlier this week, and I talked about it last night with Richard Dolan a little bit too. So I start to just like go back and do my I was so happy that this is what we're doing today, but I had done some research. And you go and you start seeing these images and these videos.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult thing to look at. And that's not even the twisted part for me, Cristina. Somebody did it. That's the twisted part, right? It's one thing to see the images, but it's something else altogether to do the act. And I had asked Linda Moulton Howe a few times, how, because I'm 6 foot, I'm 200 pounds. I don't take crap. I'm proud of my manliness, but I couldn't deal with that stuff. There's no way. There's no way I could go and look at this and not be affected by it. But Linda did it, case after case after case after case, books, documentaries, reporting on her local news, doing the interviews, and seeing this stuff. And I said, Linda, how? She said, I was changed. You know, that first day, the first case, when I walked up and saw that, I was never the same after that. And I think she's being very light in that description, because it's got to deeply affect everybody. It just does. So everybody buckle up. It's going to be one of those shows. It is a sensitive topic, and just the title of it, cattle mutilations, that's a tough thing to even say because of what it actually means. So where would you like to start?
First, I'd like to say, John, thank you so much for the super chat and supporting the channel. I appreciate it. Okay, so let's kind of get into exactly what cattle mutilations are. And what's really interesting that I would like to mention before I even share images, which I will warn you every time I do share an image that is a little bit graphic, but between April and October of 1975, nearly 200 cases of cattle mutilations were reported in the state of Colorado alone. So the 1970s, and we're going to be covering quite a few cases during that time frame where that was kind of like the hot time period for cattle mutilations from our knowledge that were documented. This is still an occurring account, like just what happened in Texas not too long ago and Australia a few weeks back. But in the 70s, it was just a really wild and hot time period. So much so, Jimmy, that the FBI got involved.
1979 FBI reports indicated that, according to investigations by the New Mexico State Police, there had been an estimated 8,000 mutilations in Colorado, causing approximately $1 million in damage.
It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, that is. And if you go back, like you're saying, to that time period, and we'll get into this a bit more, that most are unreported. They were guesstimating that 1 in 10 incidents actually gets reported. Most of it doesn't. And that's why these numbers are so big. 8,000 mutilations in Colorado. And that was according to the FBI.
And the FBI, and I'm going to share an image here. This one is graphic, but it is as a visual aid. So do keep that in mind. But I'm going to pull this up again of a cattle. It's all sad. But what's interesting about what the FBI had mentioned while they were looking at all of these cases, giving a guesstimation of how many cattle mutilations there were, at the end of the day, they stated, nah, it's the common predator that did this. And to be specific, it's the fox's fault. It's their fault why this is happening. And you can find that information on the Black Vault that was released through FOIA. And I found that really bizarre because there are very unique patterns when it comes to cattle mutilations. And we can look at this image as a great example. The ear is missing, the eyes are missing, and there's this incredible little incision right in the mouth area. And if you zoom in, I'm going to assume here that the tongue has also been removed, because this is something that has been reported time and time again with cattle mutilations. The tongue is not there. It's not the case for all of them, but for the majority. And if it was a fox, okay, let's go on to that attempt to understand that explanation, Jimmy. If we say it's a fox, that's a pretty precise fox thinking, you know what, I really only like the tongue, the eyes are pretty good, and maybe I'll take a little bit of snip of the ear, and I'm good there. Of course, there are a few other organs that do go missing, such as genitalia, the udders, sometimes even it's usually bloodless. There's no blood inside. And again, I think it would be very difficult, from my understanding, it would be very difficult for a predator just to pick out those very specific areas and not affect the rest of the area, or that there would be blood stained on the hide, which is something that you would expect with predators. That's not the case for these instances.
Yeah, for most of them, that is exactly what is going on. And in this image here, which is a pretty famous image, I think that a lot of us have seen this many times. It's the cut of the jawbone, and how that goes back. That's obviously done with a machine of some kind. That's not ants, right?
Right.
That's not a predator. That is a clean surgical cut of the jawbone, and the way that the teeth have been cut into, and how do I say, it's tools. It's tools. It's surgical precision. I don't know how it's never ever been revealed. This
No.
is something that has been going on for a long time. Many cases, Christina, of mutilation, they're not here in the United States only. Of course, not only is it worldwide, but since the Snippy incident, which we'll get into, of 1967, we've seen most cases in America, in the United States, and Australia, as you just mentioned. In South America, an estimated 3,500 incidents have occurred since 2002. So it's not like this has gone away. It has always stayed with us and goes unreported. 400 cases were reported. There was an estimated 3,500 incidents in South America. Only 400 reported. Again, it's that 1 in 10 number. Mutilation investigators assert that a large number of the cases are never reported to authorities, and they keep repeating this number. It's probably around 1 in 10 get reported. Now, if we back up and we look at some of the things that have historically repeated themselves in these cases, all popped up again in this latest incident that happened in Texas last week. Because the mutilations, by definition, are the killing and mutilation of cattle under these very unusual circumstances, usually bloodless. And it has been observed among wild animals as well, not just herded animals
Right.
and things, but wild animals worldwide. We've had sheep, horses, goats, pigs, rabbits, cats, dogs, bison, deer, and elk have all been reported mutilated with similar bloodless incisions and excisions, often in ear and eyeball, jaw flesh, tongue, lymph nodes, genitals, rectum, are removed. Again, bloodless, with very, very clean incisions. The circumstances around this, it opens up everything, especially because nothing has been definitively solved.
Right.
Because since the first reports, Christina, if you look at it in this way, these explanations that have been laid out there, and we were talking about blackleg earlier, and I'll get more into that. But you've got everything from natural decomposition, and I've heard different explanations in this photograph that you have here, how the ear is a natural decompensation. No, I don't see that. Normal predators. And then you also have cults and satanic rituals, right? You have the secretive government and military agencies testing these and maybe doing these for other reasons too as well, tying this into UFOs. You've got cryptid predators like the chupacabra, and of course, UFOs and ET. And I've got my little flying saucer cattle abduction toy that is really cool, but it's just never been solved. And so when you have something like this, you can lay out any theory or idea, and it's going to be just as valid, no matter how outrageous it may be, as anything else, because quite frankly, we've never gotten any answers.
No, we haven't. And that's the sketchy thing about all of this. This has been happening prevalently for decades. Let's say since the 1960s with Snippy, the Snippy case, which we're going to get into again. That's kind of that really got the public's interest in all of this. And I would like to say, Cassidy, thank you so much for the super sticker. But what's really interesting about this, about all of this, is what you had mentioned. We still don't have the answers. And the question would be why? Yes, there are the explanations or the possible theories of it being something to do with satanic rituals, having to do with extraterrestrials, having to do with the government. And there are a few cases that we will cover that could lead to those potential possibilities. But with all the research that's been done by individuals, civilians, by law enforcement, and even by the FBI, there haven't been any definitive answers of what's going on, and no one can explain the immense precision that has been seen on cattle with certain organs removed. Now, of course, when we're dealing with the tongue, the eyes, certain organs, yeah, they're very soft. Obviously, vultures and other predators are going to get to them first. That makes perfect sense. But when you're looking at it in literally looking at it, how are they going to get to those specific areas first without ruining the fur, the hide, opening it up, all that kind of stuff? And so I would like to hear your explanation and the story, the very famous story of Snippy. Tell us about it.
Snippy, okay. Here's the lead up to Snippy, because Snippy was 1967 and a horse. We'll get to Snippy. And historically, yes, this goes back a ways. And I'm going to get to that too as well. But we had this recent incident, and this was the news broke on this on Sunday, April 23rd, and today's Thursday, right? So this is very recent. And this is reported on all of the major news media outlets around the world. But if we go back to the summer of 2019, 5 bulls were mutilated at the Sylvies Valley Ranch in Oregon. It's estimated that each 2,000-pound bull was worth about $6,000. The FBI has made no comment on whether or not there is an investigation on this particular event, but the Sylvies Valley's Ranch offered $25,000 reward for information on the topic. The earliest known documented outbreak of unexplained livestock deaths occurred in 1606, Christina. And now this is the report from the local paper. Quote, about the city of London and some of the shires adjoining, whole slaughters of sheep have been made. In some places, the number is 100, and others less, where nothing is taken from the sheep but their tallow, their fat, and some inward parts, the whole carcasses and fleece, right? The fleece remaining still behind. Now, that's from 1606. The exact same circumstances that we are seeing today. Now, which takes us up to Snippy. Snippy, which was 1967, September 7th, near the town of Alamosa in the San Luis Valley. Snippy, a 3-year-old Appaloosa horse, failed to return to the Harry King Ranch where she was stabled. Now, I say that because Snippy has also been, I'm going to get more into this, reported to be a male. And because of the way the news cycles and the way that it gets out there, it was repeated enough that Snippy was a male. Snippy was not a male. And as a matter of fact, Snippy wasn't even Snippy's name.
No, it wasn't.
I'll get to that in a second. But we now know the case is Snippy because of the way that this went completely viral in the days before viral wasn't even a thing. Right? And now, so 2 days later, Snippy doesn't return home. 2 days later, Mr. King, the ranch owner, discovered Snippy's remains roughly a quarter mile from the ranch house. According to his account, the neck and the head had been completely stripped of flesh, leaving nothing but bare, seemingly sun-bleached white bone, while the remainder of the mare remained unscathed. King returned the next day, accompanied by the horse's owners, determined to unravel the mystery surrounding Snippy's untimely death, but more questions than answers arose. There was no blood found on or around the body, and the flesh appeared to have been removed neatly with precision. A number of darkened patches, said by the witnesses to look like scorch or exhaust marks, were found in the vicinity around the carcass. Roughly 100 yards away, they discovered a shrub which was squashed nearly flat. And nearby were a series of 6, and this is interesting, 6 small round indentations in the ground arranged in a circle.
Which is rare, by the way.
Very, very, very strange thing. And we'll talk about Gabe Valdez too as well. And last night, I don't know if you caught this, I had Richard Dolan on the show, and he said back in 2006, 2007, he was filming a TV series or a movie with Gabe Valdez, and was able to talk to him off camera and off the record about all of this. And so remind me of that, and we'll circle back. But
Okay.
Snippy was, I've talked to Linda many times on Fade to Black and otherwise about Snippy, because Snippy was featured in her book, An Alien Harvest. In her book, she reveals that Snippy was actually the mother, and that the deceased horse was in fact named Lady. Snippy's remains passed from owner to owner. Now check this out. I didn't know this. Snippy's remains passed from owner to owner for years until being put up for auction on eBay in 2006. When the owner couldn't get the $50,000 price tag he was asking, the post was withdrawn. Snippy now is reportedly occupying space in an undisclosed warehouse. Yeah, warehouse 13.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that.
13.
But with this case, and I really like the incident that you brought up, the detail about the indentations found near Snippy. Lady, I should be more specific. But with a lot of these other cases that we're going to talk about, and ones that we've heard of, there are no footprints at all. There is no indications that a person came, that an animal came, that a machine came and created any type of indentations on the ground. In this case, it's very unique. It's very interesting. And I'm really, really happy that you brought up that detail. And Michael, I do want to answer your question. How can a cow or animal be killed and no blood left? And thank you so much. So I found a potential explanation for that. Well, a conventional one. And veterinary pathologists point to the fact that scavengers tend to eat the soft tissue of dead animals first, which might explain the missing external organs commonly described on the dead bovine, right? That makes sense. But bloodless, meanwhile, might be attributed to livor mortis. When an animal dies, the heart stops and the blood stops circulating, thus settling the blood via gravity, creating a bloodless effect in some surface parts of the carcass. Now, is that a good explanation for everything? No, but this is where the veterinary pathologists are kind of looking for a potential explanation, is something that's a little bit more mundane, and I think a decent explanation. It's not great.
No,
But
it's not. It's a cop out, Cristina. You look. This is. You want to talk about a fact? Just a fact, right?
Let's do it.
There is air. We breathe air to live. That's a fact. Let me give you another fact. You cut open an animal carcass and blood comes out. A lot of it. A lot. And that's it. You're not doing stuff like this without having puddles of dried coagulated blood seeping into the ground, just large gallons and gallons and gallons of blood. We're talking about a 2,000-pound cow.
Yeah, they have about, I believe.
No, stop with that. A bloodless situation. Now, you mentioned, I want to go back to your point, if I may.
Please.
You said no mechanical, situations here. Well, no human mechanical situations, tire tracks on the ground, or footprints, things that would indicate something, a tractor, a forklift, which we see all the
Right.
time. That's how they move dead cows around. They move
Right.
them with forklifts, right? And that we haven't seen anything like that. But there has been numerous eyewitness accounts of flying objects, UFOs, lights in the sky, on the days before, after, and during where these mutilated cattle are found, and that includes Gabe Valdez and different ranch owners and ranch hands and workers around the country, around the world, have all, not all, but it is something that is attributed to these cases, and that's the mechanical part where I'm comfortable in thinking, if it's a helicopter dropping it, okay, or a UFO, ET, something else, something extraterrestrial levitating and beaming these up and down, possibility. But most of these cases, they appear to be placed. Okay, placed. Hold on, I got to sneeze.
No, okay. Well, while you sneeze, Spectre, thank you so much. This topic is utterly strange. Only appropriate to use that joke right here, right now. But in all seriousness, the one thing that I'm sure of is that it isn't predation. I believe Snippy had high levels of radiation in the remains. Interesting. Well, I put a poll up on YouTube earlier, and people, it's still open. Anyone can answer it. And I asked, what do you think is behind the mystery of cattle mutilations? Is it extraterrestrials, secret black projects, interdimensional entities, or all of the above? And right now, the highest one at 36% is extraterrestrials. Coming in
Really?
second is all of the above.
Yeah.
But when we're
all-
looking
yeah,
when we're looking at the conversation of radiation, it's it's interesting, and this has been something that I'm aware that Linda Moulton Howe had looked into when she was doing her investigations on cattle mutilations. She was measuring that to see if there was any correlation between the two, because there have been a handful of UFO sightings where in that area where potentially the craft had landed, allegedly, there have been high levels of radiation that have been in the ground in the area, not just for a few days, but for a few years, if not even a few decades.
You've got nuclear testing, and this is New Mexico, and the military and things. Yes, that is a strong correlation, and it's easy to make that connection if that's the direction that you want to go in. That these cattle, the tongue soaks up radiation. It's eating radiated vegetation from the ground, right? And so the tongue is going to be radiated. And so and I'm not saying that this is the case, but it could be part of it, and I'll explain that. Okay, so cattle is out there, how much radiation is staying in the ground and
Right.
affecting the vegetation. You grab a couple of cattle with a helicopter, you take it back to the lab, you cut out the tongue, you do the other stuff, you're testing that for radiation, you take the cattle back and drop it off. The problem with that, now that makes a lot of sense, but Richard Dolan said last night, and he was right, Jimmy, if you needed to do that, then you go to the rancher and go, sell me some cattle. Why are you stealing the man's cattle? Why are you and committing a crime when you could just go and buy the cattle? And
Maybe they're broke.
that's yeah, right. But that was a really good point by Richard. And here's the other thing though. Isn't it easy if for the government, and I'm just saying the government loosely here, by the way, that if you've got some crazy stuff going on with actual ET abducting cattle and doing their testing on it, which I totally understand, and that's where I lean on this, then you would go and fake some cattle mutilations, wouldn't you?
Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Throw everything off the scent. You really know what's going on over here. So let's do some other stuff over here because the real action is going on over here and we need to deflect,
Right.
right?
That distraction factor. Look over here, not over here. Look at
That's right.
this pretty shiny thing over
Yes.
here. Right?
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that has something to do with it. Now, if we and so I think I just addressed both of your points. But if we go back and we look at this press release that came out this past weekend, Sunday. I thought it was I thought I saw it Saturday, but it says Sunday. And I'm going to share this. Okay, so let me
Okay.
pop this up for.
Is it a graphic image?
No, I would never do that to you.
I was just making sure, like, if it was cattle, mutilated cattle, I would like to just warn people.
No, the graphic image is this homemade labney. That's the graphic image over there. Whatever.
Nice.
No. Okay, so this is from CNN, as everybody can see. If I go back and show, everybody can see my search stuff. Oh, hold on a minute. Hold on. Let me back this out. Let me pull this out and let me stop sharing. I'm going to represent because I don't want people to know my secret stuff. Now they can go and freeze frame this and look at the Harley Davidsons that
Nice.
yeah, that's what I don't want. Okay, so no, I just want window. Oh, I guess it's not going to do that for me. If I do it like that, no, it doesn't matter. Okay, everybody can see what I'm so this is CNN. What I wanted to show everybody here is this is CNN. Here's KCRA. Here's CBS, Gainesville Times, WAGM, the Daily Beast, the New York Post. This was covered. That's just a fraction of the hundreds of thousands of hits that this has taken. So if we come back over to here, and we look at this is the headline. 6 cows in Texas found dead and mutilated with their tongues cut out have left police searching for answers. This is the location of the highway right here in East Central Texas. You can see College Station. You can see Waco, Beaumont, and Houston right there. There's Dallas up here. 6 cows found dead and mutilated along the state highway. Now, if we go down, this is what I want to point out to everybody. The cow's tongue was removed with no blood spill and a straight, clean cut with apparent precision. This is the first cow and has been made to remove the hide around the cow's mouth on one side. Now, while looking into this first cow's death, investigators learned of 5 other cows that were also found in a similar brutal condition. Each cow was found from a different pasture, Cristina, different pasture, and a different herd. And now, and they continue with, was found in a different location along the area of the state highway near Brazos and Robertson counties. On 2 of the cows, a circular cut had also been made, removing the anus and the external genitalia. And the circular cut was made with the same precision as the cuts noted around the jaw lines of each cow. There were no signs of struggle, no signs of blood spill, and no footprints or tire tracks in the area around any of the cows. Now, this is what is really interesting. It says the sheriff's office says it is coordinating, Cristina, with other law enforcement agencies for information, noting multiple similar incidents in the U.S. Now, so like I said to Richard last night, is this going to be the summer of cattle mutilations like we had Tic Tacs and orbs and UFOs that were entering a new news cycle of cattle mutilations this summer? Yeah.
That's interesting because if you look at it from that perspective, it's look at this shiny thing over here, but don't look over here kind of feel.
Pull up that image that you had. Okay. Where was this from?
This is just a visual aid while you were reading the article.
Oh, that's a heck of a visual aid.
This one isn't too bad. I have more that are a lot more gruesome. This one
I'm just
was
sad.
pretty okay.
I'm just sad, I'm just sad. It's a heck of a way to go. So,
This kind of this kind of story, this kind of show that we're doing today, it's not a happy one like our other ones that we covered that are a lot more lighthearted. This one, it's very dark, and while there are some really great documentaries, there are some really fantastic books on this, for the most part this isn't a conversation that people want to have, and I do not blame them, but it is still a part of the UFO mystery, the UFO phenomenon, and it
right.
simply cannot be avoided. And so talking about this, I think that it can fill in the gaps for myself, for you, and for others when we attempt to look for answers on this. But you bring up a really good point. If we're going to be, will we be seeing more cattle mutilation stories in the summer? Because from my understanding, another pattern is that it happens in rural areas and it happens during the summer months as well. And so we're already getting there, right? It's already getting nice and warm. Are we going to see more of that? And if so, and if the news is going to catch that and make everyone look that way, what are they hiding on the other side, if anything? I think these are the kinds of questions that we need to ask. And it makes me scratch my head being like, what else could you be covering that we don't know about? I mean, this is already wild and it's a very taboo topic. Why even cover it on the news to begin with?
Well, here's the thing. Can I say that? Can I say my Jimmy Church thing? So
Yeah.
here's the thing, though, Christina. Why, if it's ET, why would we be shocked? Why should we even care? And now, and hear me out, okay? I understand I'm a sick man, right? I understand that I've got to, but we have to look at this realistically, because when you go and you take your little brother or your son and you guys grab a tackle box and go fishing, and you're out there and you're pulling a fish out of the water, you've just pulled somebody's mom, dad, brother, or sister out of the water, freaked out that fish, and you're going to take it back, slice it open, gut it, and fry it in a pan. Nobody's got issues with that, right? But if we are scientists, Christina and I, we go down. I read this earlier today. It's estimated that there are 30 million species in the Brazilian rainforest alone. 30 million. And new, undiscovered every single day, right, are discovered. So you and I are down there for the Smithsonian. And you and I go down and we find something, a new species. What are we going to do?
We're going to take it, gut it,
and dissect it, right?
yeah, and put it in the lab and do more investigations. And Jimmy, you bring up a really great point. What's the difference between the two? And you could look at it from a potential.
None. There is no difference. What's the difference?
Well, okay, no, I think that there is a difference, and it's looking at the more ethical side of it. Because if you look at hunters in general, they kill to eat, they kill to feed their family, but people cannot stand hunters that kill just for sport and don't take it home with them to like feed, right? And so
yes, I agree with you.
So I think it's more of an ethical thing. If you're going to take that whole cow, take it up and then bring it back down, keep it with you. Take it, use it to the best of your ability, but just to take a few little snippets and then drop it off, yeah, it's devastating. And
well, yeah,
and yet we all do this. So does that make us hypocritical to think that these people or these entities are crazy because they're doing that, but we do the exact same thing?
We dissect frogs in biology class.
I know.
I got no issues with that. Pigs,
for science,
for a grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do it for a grade, even worse. And but no issues with that. So ET shows up here, a nice, planet Earth, a petri dish where
Yeah.
you can go and check stuff out. And this is going on, and suddenly, now I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just saying we need to put this just into context here and try to understand what may be going on. Now, was there a deal? Let's talk about this for a second.
Ooh.
Was there a deal struck? Did Eisenhower, right, meet with ET and go, look, humans out of bounds. You can't dissect humans. Cattle, take all you want. Right? What was there a deal struck?
Right. And for those that don't know, we covered this on presidents and UFOs that allegedly President Eisenhower had a meeting with certain extraterrestrials, and they did this trade for we will give you advanced technology if you allow us to take people and or cattle. And so that's the alleged story. It's a fascinating one, definitely one of my favorites. So like don't look at me with that side eye, be like, what the heck are they talking about? This is a famous story in the UFO community. But
really good movie called The 11th Green.
oh, that one is good. I do like that one.
Really good.
If you are enjoying the show, smash the like button, because I have no doubt that this video will be hit on some kind of algorithm restrictions because of the disturbing topic that we're covering today. So you hitting the like button and sharing this video will make a big difference. We have 265 people watching. Can we get the 200 likes? Let's do
We're
that.
We're not at 200 yet.
We're not. And Android, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Why do you two believe mainstream media covered this on their websites, but not on their TV channels? Afraid of backlash from challenging people's paradigm. Yeah, it's
I know it's not
I
challenging.
think that's very possible, because like when you're looking at TV, right, it's already gruesome. When you're reading it, you can place your own imagination.
Yes.
But I think that, with this topic that we're doing, we're sharing all the images, obviously with a little bit of letting a little bit of warning. But I've already been hit by restrictions, even on the episode that we did about abduction. So like, it's not easy these days doing these types of having these types of conversations. I think that's why a lot of people just don't want to talk about it, is because so much stuff is being censored. There's too many restrictions when it comes to certain social media platforms. But you know what? It's worth the cost. It's worth it, because we're able to have these conversations, even if it gets restricted or not. People need to know about this.
Yeah, and it's easier now. That's not entirely true though. I did see a couple of news reports from a couple of TV stations, so it was covered. Now, did Anderson Cooper cover it live? I don't know. I don't watch it, so I don't have an opinion there. But it was reported. I would say that it freaks a lot of people out, just the idea behind it. And nobody wants this, going on in their backyard. And so, yeah, it's a difficult thing and talk about panic, right?
The panic is real, because it's a part of the unknown. No one knows what's going on. Is it ET? Is it the government? Is it some satanic cult? And I would like to touch on, Jimmy, Gabe Valdez.
Yeah,
because
let's go
I'm going to share an image here as a visual aid. But I think that his research and his perspective is rather unique when it comes to this. So many of you are familiar with the Dulce base. We did a whole show on it. You can find it right here on this channel. We went into great detail, and we did touch on Gabe Valdez. He was a former New Mexico State Patrol officer who gained notoriety for his investigation into the alleged cattle mutilations around the Dulce base in the late 1970s. Valdez was one of the most vocal and persistent investigators of the phenomena, and his work helped to bring the issue and attention, all the attention that he placed onto this, he brought it forward to the public. And he began investigating the cattle mutilations back in 1976 after a local rancher reported several of his cattle had been found dead and mutilated. So he took a very scientific approach to the investigation, collecting physical evidence, taking photographs, and working with experts to analyze the samples. And he for the time that he was a part of law enforcement, he came across a handful of cattle mutilations. But there was one in particular that really caught my attention that was so bizarre. And he's mentioned this in quite a few documentaries and TV shows when it comes to cattle mutilations. But in some instances, he had seen like trash, like glow sticks, gloves, masks nearby. And so he had this idea that maybe it was people, scientists, the government doing these type of really terrible things. That's the best way I could describe it. But there was one thing in particular that caught my attention the most is that one day when he was out doing an investigation on cattle mutilations, he came across this bizarre looking thing. It was like half monkey, half frog, half slightly like kind of human inside of a cow's uterus. And it was totally dead. And that is just wild. I've never come across a story like that. And he had mentioned, I mean, you can find that. He has mentioned that in interviews before.
Yeah, Gabe Valdez. Now, okay. We've got Paul Benowitz. And so if we back all of this up, you brought up 1976 and Manuel Gomez and his family and the farm there. But in that case in 1976, Valdez reported that there was a 3-legged flying saucer was seen landing near that cattle that was mutilated. And then he said it happened a second time. So now we've got the extraterrestrial element brought into this. And then Gabe and Paul Benowitz get involved. It's a long, very deep story. But they get involved with this woman who says that she there in the area, Albuquerque, where Kirkland Air Force Base is, and Dulce's not that far away, that she was driving down the road. She sees a flying saucer come down. She hears these cattle screaming and yelling in pain, and she looks, and a flying saucer is above this herd and is beaming up cattle into the flying saucer. Okay. She sees it again. She sees it with her son. So Gabe Valdez and Paul Benowitz bring in a therapist to regress her and hypnotize her. And this goes on for a long period of time. And the stories that she was recounting got crazier and crazier. But so did Paul, and I think Gabe Valdez was flipping out a little bit too as well, because they started in these regression in cars that were lined with tinfoil, and they would go out and locate because they thought that ET was listening to their investigations that were interfering with the cattle mutilations and abductions that was going on. And Gabe Valdez was a part of all of this for a very, very long time. And in 1978, he was photographed by local media during an investigation, which is this photograph that we're looking at here. There were 4 mutilated cattle in this image that you're showing. And this went on for quite a while. And I think that Gabe and his son, too, as well, in the books that were written about Gabe and all of these cases, were very, very important. And Gabe, being a dedicated officer of the law, I think that he was always considered very, very credible. And he took it upon himself to investigate these cases that no other law enforcement or other people wanted to touch, Cristina.
How could you? You would be ridiculed. You would be classified as crazy. One, to look into these, first off, and two, to come out and stating, I don't have an explanation. It's so bizarre. It'd be classified as unexplained, strange, mysterious. no one would want to touch that. And I think for this time period, the 1970s, 1980s, I don't blame them. Okay? Like my question is, I wonder how many ranchers have not made public reports about mutilations on their properties over the decades, okay?
Right.
Because mutilations have occurred on high profile ranches like Skinwalker Ranch throughout different ownerships, and also occurred on Blind Frog Ranch in the same geographical area. So how many cases have slipped under the radar globally?
It's a lot. The number is huge. Now we're talking about Gabe Valdez, and we can circle back to this, and New Mexico, and of course Colorado, the Four Corners area. We'll get into the San Luis Valley as well, but Kansas, Christina, you brought this up, and I'll hand this over to you in just a second. But on December 4th, 1973, law enforcement reported a wave of cattle deaths in 7 counties across Kansas. Okay, so this is predating Gabe Valdez. This is after Snippy, but before Gabe Valdez in 1976. This was 1973. And sexual organs were reported having been removed. Weeks later, it was reported 38 mysterious cattle deaths had occurred across 11 counties. Then the Kansas Brand Commissioner's Office determined that most of the deaths and removal of sex organs were the result of, are you ready?
Mm.
Natural causes. and so they blamed it on predators, but they also said it was shipping fever, right?
Shipping fever.
Might as well just say it was weather balloons, right? Shipping fever and blackleg. And I mentioned blackleg to you before the show. Blackleg, also known as black quarter evil, or quarter ill, is an infectious bacterial disease seen in livestock all over the world. The photographs of it and the imaging of it, don't look it up. Just take my word for it. It's pretty gnarly.
I just looked it up.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly to see, and it's fast, and so you have to catch it early. I think they did an episode of Yellowstone on this. So when this goes down and this bacteria is in the fields where the cows are grazing, they have to torch the field, right? Right, burn it down to kill it and get the vegetation to grow back. Otherwise, your whole herd will get infected. You can use antibiotics like penicillin, but that has to be caught very, very early. But here's the thing with that. Blackleg is not removing teeth, removing ears, removing tongues, surgical cuts. It's not. And for the Kansas Brand Commissioner's Office to say that, no, these mutilations were natural. No, like I said, it's like saying that it's a weather balloon.
And I had told you I had not heard of blackleg until you had mentioned it. And I think that while that could be a potential explanation, you bring up a great point. I can't take off ears, eyes, tongues, but I have a video, and this video is gruesome, okay? But a really unique detail about cattle mutilations compared to other cattle or other animals that have died in nature is that within a week, 2 weeks tops, they're gone. I mean, there is almost nothing left, but maybe a few bones here and there. But when it comes to these unique cattle mutilations, they are left untouched by any type of vultures, any type of predators. Bugs will kind of get their way through, but not to the extent that a regular animal that died would. So I'm going to share an image here, a video here of a deer that's decomposing in a week and how fast it happens. So let me pull this up because it is fascinating. There is no audio, so I'm just going to go ahead and play that, and that timeline thing will go away. But as you can tell here, it's saying 2 days. This is by Stone Age Man. He recorded this, but if you look at it, if you look I don't want to put my cursor there, but if you look kind of near the stomach area, it's just being eaten by bugs in ways that's unbelievable. And the fur is being placed all on the outside of the carcass. You also see a lot of bugs in the mouth area, and it's making its way up. But look at that. Look how fast it's being taken. Look how fast it's being eaten by all those little brown spots. Those are maggots, by the way. That's pretty gross, actually. But look, we're already 4 days in and it's already almost gone. With a lot of these cattle mutilations that are found by the ranchers, it's days after their expiration date, sometimes even a week. And while you would expect the cattle to look something like this, they're left completely intact.
Wow, I can't unsee that.
No,
Thank you, Christina.
you're welcome.
Thank you for that.
I'm glad I could add to
Very,
today's show.
but very interesting to see that that process and nature, and nothing is left in the end too. That's
No,
nuts.
practically nothing. Again, you do have a little bit of bones there, but the fur is totally all over the place or almost gone. And that only took about a week.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's nuts.
It is. So for anyone that grew up on a ranch, or even if you like camping, when you see a dead animal, you can smell it, you can see all the bugs nearby, you can see some type of vultures there sometime as well, and you know to stay away. But in these instances, cattle cattle mutilations are left almost always untouched. Cassidy, thank you so much for the super sticker again. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's the other part, and Linda has brought this up, and uh, everybody should read Alien Harvest, and it's an incredible book. But well, I'm not eating dinner tonight. I was mad and read my mind. I'm like, well, you know what? I think I'm gonna just have some orange juice. That's where I'm going
A
tonight.
nice fruit smoothie. That'll do for today.
I don't think chili cheeseburgers on the menu. Is that when they are there is the predator, the things that would normally decompose or break down a body, a carcass, like you just showed in that video, it's not happening.
Nope.
They don't want anything to do with they're just sitting there. And also to say that some of these things, going back to the Kansas brand commissioner's office, saying that these are natural. There's no straight line cutting. I'm not looking at, I didn't see any maggots with dental tools, right? I didn't see any of that. I didn't see any of that action going on there. And everything it's how do it's almost Fibonacci how it's breaking down in its natural process, but nothing in straight lines, nothing. No, you're not seeing skin peeled back and everything else. No, nothing. And I know I'm being, I sound like I'm being pretty graphic, but this is what's going on when we're talking about cattle mutilations and animal mutilations in general.
Yeah, there's no holding back for today's show. I mean, like I had mentioned, this show will probably already be restricted with the algorithm. So let's just go all in with today. What's the next famous case that you'd like to cover?
I'm gonna make this dealer's call. You go with it, Christina.
I picked a few. I'll let you pick the next one.
Let's do. Well, okay. Let's go in order.
Okay.
The Stilwell Ranch.
Okay. I'm just gonna. All right. I'm gonna share an image here merely as a visual aid. It is graphic. Okay. Just putting it out there. But tell us about it, Jimmy, while I pull this up.
I'm gonna respond to you. This is gnarly. I'm gonna let you know. Go ahead and put this up. Stilwell Ranch. This is one of the most famous photographs when we talk about cattle mutilations ever. That right there has nothing to do with the time lapse movie that you just had up on the screen. There's no connection there whatsoever.
No,
I think the Stilwell Ranch went up for sale too.
Did it?
Boy. Yeah.
Would you buy it if you knew that happened?
It wasn't that expensive. I did see that. I don't want to get any more involved I don't want people going out and visiting and checking it out. But anyway, so this is 1975. What happened, Christina?
So the incident took place on a ranch near the small town of Dulce, New Mexico, and is often cited by those who believe in the existence of extraterrestrials. On the evening of September 9th, 1975, a rancher named Manuel Gomez, or not related, discovered the carcass of a cow on his ranch, and the cow had been cleanly cut in half, and its organs and other soft tissue had been completely removed. The cuts were so precise that it appeared as though the animal had been surgically dissected. The mutilated cow was not an isolated incident, as other cases of animal mutilations had been reported in the area in the months leading up to the Stilwell Ranch incident. Local law enforcement officials, including Sheriff Gabe Valdez, were baffled by the mutilations and could find no conclusive explanation for them. In the years that followed, the ranch incident became the subject of much speculation and debate, as it should, and some people suggested that the mutilations were the work of ET, while others proposed that they were part of a government conspiracy or the work of satanic cults, which is whenever anyone hears anything about cattle mutilations, those are the 3 points that the mind goes to and where the conversation goes from there. I mean, even in today's conversations, people still bring up these possibilities, but no one knows for sure and about what happened. But what's unique about this particular cattle mutilation is that it was just cut in half, a nice clean cut. Usually you might hear a few organs missing, a little bit here, a little bit there, but this one was just a hacha, just one slice, two halves.
So Richard Dolan last night speaking about this case directly. So he goes out. I promised that I would bring this up once we jumped into Stilwell. He said that so he goes out filming something, TV or a movie, but he meets Manuel and the Gomez family. And he said, Jimmy, everybody just go watch the show last night, the last half hour where we specifically talk about this case. He says the Gomez family, the nicest people ever. So they were just amazing, and everything that they had gone through. He said, but they were just great. They were an amazing family. But he said Gabe Valdez was there. This was 2007. So what year are we in? We're 2023. So I guess that's 16. Is that right? 16 years ago? Yeah, it's a pretty good chunk of time. So 2007. And so he pulls Gabe aside, and Richard said last night, and I'm speaking for Richard here, so I don't want to put words in his mouth or anything, but I'll do my best to frame where Richard's mind was at last night, where he said, "Look, man, I'm all into UFOs, right, and the UFO connection here." And that's why they brought me out, and Linda Moulton Howe, and then Gabe Valdez, and Mutilations, and Dulce, and all of that. So I'm out there, and off camera, I pulled Gabe aside. I said, "So, man, what's going on?" And he was hoping he was going to talk about UFOs and ET. And Gabe said, "I don't believe that it's ET anymore. I used to." And Richard said, What are you talking about?" And he said, I don't want to talk about it. But it's not ET. It's something much more sinister than that. And I'm not comfortable talking about it. So Richard and I last night, okay, so with that, I'm going to bring it up. What's he talking about, right? Is this like Eyes Wide Shut, Stanley Kubrick, Illuminati, ritual, sacrificial thing going on? And that is the zone where I think most people are very, 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 very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I would rather have it be ET. I swear, if it's ET, I got no issues. I got zero issues.
But if it's people, that's a different story, because nothing, Jimmy, nothing is scarier than another person. You shouldn't don't fear the dead. You should fear the living. People that are scared of ghosts, I'm like, don't even worry about them. You're
Right.
fine. But if
Right.
you walk anywhere outside of your home, you never know who's going to hurt you, put you in a potato sack, and take you home.
That's right. That's right. I've seen that movie, man. I've seen that movie. But when Richard put it for Gabe Valdez, law enforcement, right? New Mexico State Trooper, for somebody like that career, right? To say, man, no, I can't even talk about it. That's crazy. And that's where everybody else's mind is with this, Christine. You don't want to go there. There was, I'm not going to get into specifics, but about 5 years ago, and please, everybody, don't ask me for specifics. Just go. You're going to have to go and listen to yourself. I had Linda Moulton Howe on the show, and there were some things going on with house pets. All right, specifically right here in Southern California, but also across the United States, and some reports going on in Europe. And I got to tell you, it's one of the creepiest, uncomfortable things to think about, because we all love our pets, number one.
Of course.
But the second thing, you know what? I don't know the level of violations of moral conduct and code, because at some point everything is equal, right? I don't think anything is worse than the other, right? Once you're bad, you're just bad. But anybody that would be doing stuff like this, that's the part that really affected me. That somebody would do this, the twisted mind that would do this, and that scares me the most.
But the weird thing, Jimmy, is that this has been happening. I mean, the first case was 1606. Another case took place in 1897, and if it is a person, it's been going on for centuries. But if it's something else, right, that maybe can outlive humans, that might make just a tad bit more sense in this conversation, which here really we don't really have any leads. No one knows the answers to this. Everyone can speculate. A lot of people have done research, but no one has answers. And so I think that anything's on the table. And for cases to have taken place since 1606, and there's probably been some before then, we can just assume, right? It's very wild. Also, Charles, thank you so much. Just jumping on. Love you both.
Thank you, Charles.
We love you too.
See here, okay. All right, let's put it all into context a little bit, and I would love your reaction to this.
All right.
Okay, everybody, don't shoot the messenger here. Just listen to what I'm saying. We are okay with The Walking Dead. We're okay with that. We're okay with that TV series. We are okay with any zombie movie. Right? You've got 10,000 zombies, humans coming at you, but it's okay to fire up a chainsaw and a machine gun and mow them all down. We're okay with that. Not cattle mutilations, right? It's like bizarre. It's like totally crazy. It affects us. You don't mess with our house pets. You don't do this stuff. But yet a zombie movie, The Walking Dead. What does that guy have? He has a baseball bat with the thing. I forget the guy's name.
I've never seen it.
I haven't either. Okay, I'm just gonna let you know. But number one TV series for like 25 years, right? And we're okay with that. We're okay. We can't let our mind go into something that we can't control, that is abducting animals here and doing this to them, and either dropping them back off or doing them on site, whether it's ET, a ritual thing, or government interference. It's something that we are not comfortable talking about. But yet we will go watch World War Z, right? It's weird. So I'm just putting it out there.
And no, I think that's great to kind of give people a perspective that how come some things can be okay and others can't? How come it's okay to even kill animals that people find interesting or fun, but when it comes to cattle mutilations, it's scary and disturbing? No, you bring up some really great points, and it's I don't even know how to word it because there aren't ethics in this type of conversation. It's just kind of, I guess, your priorities or your perspective. Patrick says, what's the percentage between male and female cattle being mutilated? From my understanding, and Jimmy, maybe you can give your 2 cents as well. And thank you, by the way, Patrick. But my understanding is that the majority of them are female. They are cows because of their reproductive system, I'm assuming, because also a lot of their udders have been
Yeah.
removed as well. But
Yeah,
there are also bulls have been
that's right.
that are also a part of the statistic of cattle mutilations, and their genitalia has also been removed. But from the stories that I've come across, the majority of them are female. And even when it comes to Snippy, the horse, who's not even a cow, is a horse, was also female.
But what about zombie cows? See, that would be okay.
What if?
Yeah, zombie cows would be. Yeah, but zombie cows would be okay. Zombie cows. But I remember the feeling that I got in 19 when this started to break open, right? 76, 77, 78, 79. I'm just a kid. I'm 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, and I was deeply affected by this. And these photographs that we have been showing today, these were shown on TV shows, right? And Leonard Nimoy and these. It was shown on the news. It was in the newspapers. It was in Time magazine. Whatever. It was everywhere, and I was deeply, deeply, deeply affected by the visuals, and then everything else that was tied with it, with the descriptions that were given by so many of these eyewitnesses that were on location with this. So yeah, I have been affected by it. It's just a strange thing, and I'm not the only one. I think that it's the uncontrollable aspect of this. The mystery hasn't been solved. We haven't seen it go down. Nobody's been caught. And like I said to Richard last night, and I said earlier in the program, I would rather have it be ET than my neighbors doing this.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We don't want that. I think that would freak out a lot of people. And going back to what Gabe Valdez said, he doesn't think it's that, and he doesn't want to talk about it. And that's the issue I think we all have.
It'll make you question, why wouldn't he want to talk about it? Is there a threat factor? Is he being threatened? Is he just too worried that he'll be discovered with his information? That's just that's where my question is. And Charles, thank you. Thank you again. The new Walking Dead shows are coming out soon.
Do people have you ever watched a zombie movie, Christina?
Yes, and the name is escaping me, but it was the comedy. Is it Zombieland?
Oh, Zombieland was good. That's
think
the
I
one with
think that's
Elvis,
what it
right?
is.
They went to Elvis's house, or no? Whose house did they go?
Don't even ask me. It's been years. I just don't have time to watch that kind of stuff anymore.
They show up at
But
like Dan Aykroyd's house or somebody, and but anyway, Woody Harrelson, right? You're talking about that one,
all of these names are just going right over my head. I have
okay?
no idea who people are.
And that was a comedy. That was pretty good. But no, okay, yes, I've watched Zombieland, but I don't watch these movies, but they are very, very popular.
They are, yeah. Like the whole books about zombies as well, like how to survive a zombie apocalypse. It's a trendy thing, and it has been. So I want to guess 2010
Yeah,
and
could be.
around that time. Charles, thank you again. Do you guys remember the group of hikers that got mutilated in the Russian mountains? That one really disturbed me, and I think that one is called the
I'm
day
just
da da
come on, you can do it. You
Dyatlov
can,
pass
yeah, there you go.
pass incident. Yeah, like
See, Google
it's
it.
right there.
She Googled it. I watched it. She tried it. You can't fake the Google search. You can't do it. People
I didn't even know. It's in my mind.
the Outlook Pass. I don't want to get too sideways
Yeah.
here. The Outlook Pass. Yeah. Okay. So, I don't believe the Outlook Pass was cattle mutilations, but the other thing is, I'm not going to tie these two words together because I don't want to get your algorithm all messed up and get YouTube all
It's too late.
but
It's too late.
there's two words that you don't want to have to go together: human and mutilation. You don't want that. And there was a researcher out of England. He's here in the United States now, and again, he has been completely censored on all platforms because he did a series of documentaries, had a website dedicated to this subject. Now, talk about the tabooest of taboo subjects. It's that one. And so if cattle mutilations are going down, then why wouldn't, is there some kind of rule or law that says it can only be cattle? Well, the short answer to that would obviously be no. But who is going to cover that? Is the mainstream media going to cover that? No, they're simply not going to do it. And we need to be very careful here. And which goes back to like the Dyatlov Pass incident. That's a crazy situation. That's a real thing that happened to all of those college kids and those hikers that just chose to go hiking during the winter up in the mountains and met a horrible fate. So there are many that have said that there were lights in the sky in the days leading up to the event. And those reports were active, and the Russian military was there. And then the KGB got involved in that case. Why would the KGB get involved in a hiker case that could have been hypothermia, right, or something else mundane? I don't know, but yeah, that case has always freaked me out as well.
It has, and yet, Jimmy. Before we move on, one thing I would like to mention, and yet, while these are so gruesome, while they are so scary to talk about, crime TV shows, crime podcasts, crime movies do so well because people are fascinated with the morbid, the gruesome, the disgusting,
and the true.
And the truth as well, right? Because there's a big difference between like
right. Yeah, you got to put the true part in there, right?
Yeah, true crime.
Yeah, true crime, man. That's I love true crime. Man, give me a 3-part Netflix true crime documentary. I'm all in. Right?
I'm not for it. But what I'm getting at is, even though these topics are so taboo, they're so terrible, people have a fascination with them. Have it be with people or have it be with cattle. And yet either way, only the few still touch these conversations because they are dark and they are rather difficult to cover. But we have a little bit of time left and we have a few more stories. Do you want to talk about some of the more famous ones or some more recent ones?
No, I think we should go with Christopher O'Brien here and the San Luis Valley in the 1990s because he wrote his book and Christopher's a good dude. I know him. And this takes us right up to the same area where all of this has been going on. And like I said earlier, and you did too, Cristina, this didn't ever really go away, right? We're seeing it back in the news. We're seeing it back in the media. But Christopher O'Brien has been researching this, wrote an excellent book, and he lives in that area. And everything continues to this day. Where is the San Luis Valley, Cristina, for everybody?
I will tell you that right now. It's in Colorado. Just because I was pulling up the image, I had to pull up my notes at the same time. But it's in Colorado, and they experienced a series of cattle mutilations that were particularly disturbing. And the San Luis case, they're just a handful of more than 10,000 mutilations that have stumped ranchers and investigators across the United States for decades. But the San Luis Valley mutilation is a term used to describe not just one, but it was practically a flap of mutilations. And this took place, really, I mean, if you look at it, really not that long ago. But Jimmy, tell us more about this.
Well, when I talked to Christopher O'Brien about this, and others out in that area, and a few other friends of mine that have been on the show too as well, that it was like every ranch. It was everybody there had experience with this, had a story behind it, either owned a ranch and had mutilations occur, or they were workers, or they had friends or family, and it was just everywhere. So much so that he wrote his book. But all of the same typical now. The same typical things, right? Bloodless, precise incisions, no tire tracks, no footprints, no signs of predators or animals, and these cattle were unaffected by other natural causes. Now that was basically it. But here's the other part, though: lots of UFO activity. Lots of lights in the sky, and the lights in the sky, and in this part of the country, the San Luis Valley, it is one of the busiest UFO hotspots in the world, and it happens to be here in the United States. But these mutilations, of which there were thousands that were going down, were in more cases than not were tied to UFOs, and were tied to sightings, to the minute, to the day, and these cases happened one after another. Christina,
It goes to show that no one's safe. No person, no location, no animal is safe from this. So just be wary. Maybe wear like a barbed wire jacket or something.
it's a barbed wire jacket,
Like
the,
what you put on chihuahuas.
right. The friends of mine that rode around this part of New Mexico and Colorado with Gabe Valdez and others, listening to the stories, and they were going from ranch to ranch to look at this next case, there to document and interview witnesses, that this was something that was nearly a daily occurrence. And this was, I can't say it or stress this enough. It was a very, very dark period that continues now, but this was something that was happening every single day. And I remember it was uh, uh, oh man, I just had a brain freeze. One of my favorite guests on Fade to Black, who's no longer with us, so I'm not going to waste time anymore trying to remember exactly the story that I wanted to tell you about, but um, was literally riding around in a pickup truck for 8 to 10 hours in between stops at these different sites, and sitting with Gabe Valdez and sitting with Linda Moulton Howe, and going and researching these cases one after another. And it was just a very, very dark period for everybody, and a very scary time. And it seems like I feel that, like I said to Richard last night, maybe we're going to enter into another summer of media covering something as crazy as this. I hope not, but I just kind of feel it coming.
Well, in 2019, there was a case in Oregon where 5 bulls were found dead and mutilated in a similar manner that we had mentioned throughout the show, where genitalia was missing, the tongue was missing, eyes, and things like that. And then in 2020, a rancher in Colorado reported finding a cow that had been killed and mutilated, and the cow's tongue and genitalia were missing, and there were no signs of predators or scavengers in the area. Now, there's a few more, but I think I want to be in the mindset of a rancher in present day. If that were to happen, who would you even call? Like, what do you expect them to do to fix it after you did your investigation? You see that no predators did it. You see that there are no footprints for most cases. Like, you would make that phone call, and what would you expect to be done? And I think that a lot of these ranchers that don't report these things probably think to themselves, they can't do anything. Whoever I call, it isn't going to refund me the money that it took to raise the cattle and then to sell it. So
No,
then what's the point?
yeah, they're just going to probably the cattle's insured, and you're just going to report it to the insurance company. You're not going to bring in a researcher like Linda Moulton Howe. You're not going to call the local news. You're not going to call the police. You're just going to hopefully move on and hope that this doesn't happen again.
Right.
Jim Mars. That's who I was trying to think of. So Jim Mars, who wrote Alien Agendas, if you just let that simmer a little bit, and then it'll come to you. As you notice, I didn't Google, Christina. I didn't Google.
You probably did.
But Jim Mars, was telling me, and this might have been live on the air, but it was him and Linda Moulton Howe and Gabe Valdez. They're driving around Colorado. They're driving around New Mexico and going from case to case and doing this research. And Jim said, dude, this was like one of the darkest things that I could sit and think about. What is doing this? Who is doing this? And why are they doing this to this cattle? And it was just, and Jim is a very strong guy, very strong. Love that guy, Texan to the bone. But if he's shaken like that, like Gabe Valdez was shaken like this, yeah. It's something that's very difficult to talk about. Man, what a great show today.
It has been an awesome show. And before you go, I would like to give the final stats on the poll.
Oh, yeah.
34% still said extraterrestrials. 30% said all of the above.
Right.
20% said secret black projects. And 15% said interdimensional entities. And the question was, what do you think is behind the mystery of cattle mutilations?
Nobody's wrong here. There's no wrong answer, actually. There's no wrong answer. I think it's all of the above. And so, yeah, there's just no wrong answer. Yeah. Crazy. And I don't know if we'll ever, do in a case like this, Cristina, before we go, do you really want to have this answered? Do you really want to know? I mean,
I want to know. I want to know.
Do you? Well,
I do.
If it's ET,
I want the answers to the biggest questions.
If it's ET, tell me. If it's something else, I don't want to know. I'm going to be Gabe Valdez.
It's okay. It's okay.
I'm cool, man. I'm cool over on this side of the fence. But yeah, what a great show. And some things have to just be discussed, like
Thank
today.
You, Brian.
So, there you go. And Cristina, if I get any more and hear of any other breaking news with this, I'll let you know, and I'll let everybody else know. What am I doing tonight on the show, Cristina?
I don't know. You tell me.
Steve Bassett.
Nice.
The Bassiter on the show tonight. PRG going to continue. I think this week. I just wanted to concentrate on the Arrow hearing and where we are with disclosure. And of course, Steve Bassett, and it's the 10-year anniversary of the Citizens hearing. What is his take with Washington, D.C., and what is going on with disclosure? And then tomorrow night, I'll see you. I'm going to see you tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow is our weekly Strange News Roundtable with you and Micah Hanks. So for those that are watching, make sure to hit the notification bell on YouTube so that you do not miss tomorrow's show.
You know what I got to do tomorrow? This is my day. So tomorrow, I've got to be up at 5 a.m. I have a call time. I've got to go film scenes for a movie. And I've got to do all of that. I've got to turn around and rush back. I'm slated for 4 hours. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to get back. I'm going to do your show. I'm going to wrap that and then turn around. And I've got Mick West on the show tomorrow night. We're doing 5 nights this week. So that's my day tomorrow. So everybody see this beautiful face, this young, youthful, just wonderful. Yeah, tell me what I look like tomorrow night on the show after I get all of that done. But you know what? It's the life you chose. Cristina, I'll see you tonight on the show. Thank you, everybody. An amazing topic tonight. And there you go. I'll see everybody later on with Steve Bassett.
All right. Bye, Jimmy. What a great show today. Out of everything we covered, what little piece, what little story, what little piece of information was your favorite? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know in the comments as well. I do read all of the comments. As Jimmy and I had mentioned a few seconds ago, Weekly Strange News is tomorrow with Jimmy and Micah Hanks, so you do not want to miss that. Those are always a lot of fun. Also, check out my interview that I did with the owner of Skinwalker Ranch, Brandon Fugel, and last week's interview with the Skinwalker Ranch team. A lot of things are mentioned. A lot of things were very eye-opening as well, and you can find all of that right here on this channel. Please share this show and all the other shows that you see right here on this channel. And on your way out, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. We do a bunch of live shows right here every single week. Follow me on Twitter at eyes_on_the_skies for all of my updates and news. And if you are enjoying the overall content on this channel, consider being a Patreon supporter. All the funding goes straight to the channel or to the RV fund, and maybe a bowl of ramen here and there. But I will see all of you guys tomorrow. Be safe, and remember, keep your eyes on the skies.